It is currently the 3rd of February 2022, and if you can believe it, I'm back at it again commentating on XCOM 2 Long War of the Chosen. And we're getting down to some actual business now. It's time to set up the Advent Forge mission. This is another mission that's going to take like a month or longer to infiltrate, so eventually we'll see that important story event happen. In the meantime, we can do another story mission, one that just sort of pops up after a while. I'm not sure what triggers this to happen, but eventually, after all your shenanigans, the aliens will just get bored and come to kill you. Not really sure why they didn't do that in the beginning, but of course we're not commenting on the plot here. So they come to shoot us down. Fortunately, I think the aliens want to capture us alive because we need it for the Avatar project in some way. That means they don't kill us, they just make us land and put a thing next to the ship that stops us from taking off. So you have to do a mission where you just have to destroy the thing and then take off, but there are aliens all over the place in the meantime. We fight our way out of the Avenger. As you can see, we took out a Muton early on. Here's an interesting psychic ability we've recently unlocked, Fuse. It lets you blow up explosives in enemies' inventories. So we can use it here to blow up a missile that's inside this mech. It doesn't actually do very much damage, but it is useful in that it shreds a bit of armor, so all future attacks will do 1 extra damage as a result. We can even fire at it in the same turn, unfortunately getting grazing damage, but someone else takes it out later on. So that's 1 enemy down. The other mech that's just behind that building tries to fall back during its turn, which is kind of useful in that you can tell from the direction it starts running where the next nearest enemy pod is, and indeed we see it immediately after, so that hint doesn't really help us out, but it's good to know. 2 Centurions and a Viper are coming in, but again we can do some spying with the camera. You can see at the top, the thing we need to destroy is right there, and it's surrounded by enemies, and on the left it looks like we're seeing the edge of another pod as well. Annoyingly, the enemy went backwards, which is quite rare for their deployment. So this tells us that if we advance at all, we're probably going to trigger more than 1 pod because they're sitting on top of each other. However, there's not much else we can do, so I ended up advancing this tiny bit and accidentally triggering this pod, which is a bunch of chrysalids, including a giant one that I'm pretty sure I haven't seen before. Maybe the mod adds that, don't quite remember. I fired a rocket into the bunch and killed one of them, and took some armor off the rest. That's going to make it easier to kill them, potentially anyway. Here we get some bad RNG on the damage roll, get the minimum damage for this relatively high damage attack, and don't kill the giant one. Well, we've got plenty more shots for this turn, so we blast away. Down goes one of the regular chrysalids. I take a snipe to kill one of the Centurions that triggered earlier. In their pod was another Centurion and a Viper. I completely forgot about that and just shot at the next nearest enemy, thinking that was probably what triggered. But no, that enemy was part of the other pod that was behind them. So by taking that shot, we trigger all these enemies to join the fight during our turn. That sucks. Just more of me being bad at the game, so can't complain really. But that was just bad luck. Grazing damage, fails to get the kill. Somebody takes out the big chrysalid, so that's got to be a good thing. And a bit of that guaranteed damage from a psych attack kills another one. We shut down the mech archer I just brought into the fight, so now it won't be shooting its guaranteed damage at us during its turn. Let's have a look at what the enemy do get up to. This stun lancer makes a wild run but gets shot on the way. That's because Chandragupta there has a kill zone set up on those chrysalids, ready to shoot them if they move, and that guy conveniently ran across the kill zone and got hit by it. This guy comes up and takes some shots at Raiden, I think that is, and unfortunately gets the hit in high cover, but luckily it was grazing so he doesn't die. Well, for now anyway. Another pod happens to walk into the fight, so now we've got absolutely loads of stuff between us and the thing we need to get to. Technically we don't have to kill them, you just have to shoot the thing and then leave. But we can't see the thing in XCOM logic because it's too far away. I think I have somebody on the roof of the little building to our right that it can almost see it but not quite, so we don't have squad sight on it. If somebody could get close enough to see it, we could just snipe it and the mission would be over. Instead, we're getting killed. That chrysalid dodges the Overwatch and kills Raiden. The second chrysalid gets killed by the Overwatch, so it did come in useful for something. But now Raiden, of course, will turn into more chrysalids unless we spend some of our turn shooting him, which is super annoying, and we need to finish off that chrysalid. One nice thing about this mission though is that every time somebody dies, another new party member will just replace them by coming out of the Avenger until you run out of guys, and we've got tons of guys in the Avenger, Annoyingly, it just goes down your list, I suppose, so it brings up people who have wounds as well, like Big Mama here. Well, that's still a high quality soldier to rush in, perhaps one that's even better than Raiden, and now we can immediately come back into the fight and get revenge taking out the Chrysalid. Time to start thinning out the herd of enemies here, and a double tap is a great way to do that. We get both hits and both kills, including a purifier explosion that damages somebody else, very handy. A snipe also takes out the other mech, so that's the enemy's long-range rocket attacks dealt with. Cloud comes in to outflank a guy in amongst these transformers. He's right on the edge of the map there, a nice safe position because he has the low profile buff. He's in heavy cover from both directions the enemy can attack him in. We actually get a second shot due to his perks as well. It doesn't kill the priest because priests are magic, but that's some progress towards killing them. Now, some bad news. I moved up slightly with Moria here, and as always, that's a bad move. We're getting XCOM'd. Here comes a sector pod all of a sudden. This is a gigantic and powerful thing that we're now going to be assaulted with on the other side of the map. This was incredibly annoying because I was getting ready to go everything, or to put everything onto the right side of the map to deal with how many enemies were there. Now we've got this coming in on the left. We're going to have to stand here and just shoot at it, because if any enemies reach where we're standing, you lose automatically, apparently, anyway. So we blast away and damage the sector pod. I also kill one of the two snakes in that area. Unfortunately, my last shot on the sector pod is the one that shreds armor. I didn't realize that Eisenhower there could shred armor with his attack. Should have done that first and I would have done more damage. A Muton charges into our little building on the right here, dodging two Overwatches unfortunately, and then does the stunning melee attack on Cypher, so he's out of the fight for a while. This Vanguard enemy comes in and takes some shots at Cloud. That's a miss, and as I mentioned, while it looks like he's in low cover, he's actually in heavy cover, so that's minus 80% chance for their shots to hit. However, this guy from the back takes a shot and does hit Cloud, and also kills him immediately as well. So that's not too useful. Just incredibly poor luck, I think there. It was a good spot for him to be overall. Well, we've got some more poor luck, I suppose, in that the sector pod is coming in to have some fun. Not too much we can do about this now. First, it uses a area of effect thing on its feet that does a bit of damage. Looks like it gets two actions, though it also shoots Eisenhower. It actually doesn't kill him, he's only bleeding out despite the massive damage he took, so that's useful. The same can't be said though for Moya, who gets outflanked by the remaining snake over there and is killed in one hit. She was wearing the Wraith armor rather than the Warden armor. That's the armor that lets you move through walls, but it's a bit less powerful than regular armor. So yes, she is down. That's really, really annoying. We need to turn this around somehow. We need some luck. I was desperate to just destroy the thing and leave, but we still don't have anyone far enough forward to have squad sight on the thing. So we need to keep shooting for now. Need to deal with the sector pod right up at our deployment zone. We shoot at it a bunch of times and don't quite kill it. I kill the snake that killed Moya, so that's a bit of revenge over there. And then we take out the sector pod, discovering that it explodes and does damage when it dies, so we lose some more health on Otagon, I think that was. Wellesley here is in a good position because an enemy moved during its turn to somewhere that's already outflanked, so we can just take them out right now. That's about all we achieved this turn, because we've got Cypher and I think also Erwin Rommel in that building out of action. He was on stasis because the priest used a spell on him. He's back now. However, a snake rushes forwards onto the roof and fires at the Joy. Luckily, it's not enough damage to kill, so she just loses half her health and the snake then slithers away to avoid the outflanking returning fire, although not actually, as we'll see. The Muton continues its run. It now goes to the back of our little building, takes some grazing damage, then shoots at Cypher, handily also doing grazing damage, so it only just killed him, and he goes on to bleeding out. So that's useful, I guess, but less useful than it could have been. We also get this shot. Incredibly poor luck. Another heavy cover kill. That's the third time that's happened this mission, and probably like the fifth time it's happened in the entire campaign. We're getting the worst RNG. As mentioned, you get 80% chance to block with heavy cover thanks to my mod alterations. It's very powerful. But then the enemy's aim might be boosted up by a bunch of stuff as well. We need some good luck now to turn this around, and because of how the game is programmed secretly in the background, if you have bad luck, you actually do then get good luck. The game doesn't tell you the real chance for everything to happen. There's a whole system behind the scenes to try and counteract the fact that RNG combat mechanics don't really work fundamentally. So essentially, if a couple of your party members are dead in a mission, for the rest of the mission you'll just have great luck and things will go fine, so that it doesn't spiral out of control. We can also use this Gremlin Stabilize ability paired up with a perk that Otacon had to allow him to use his medpack multiple times per mission to stabilize 2 of our bleeding out party members in the building. That's handy. The second part of my snipes for this turn from the double tap gets us another kill. Then in the enemy turn, they just stood where they were and all fired at us and all missed, thanks to that good luck, I guess. So nothing happened essentially. However, they are now going to start getting reinforcements. They get a mech and a stun lancer every turn from now on, as it turns out. I guess we're taking too long to do this mission. So we have to fight 2 extra enemies each time, but we're starting to get this thing under control. We just about saved Eisenhower as well, so we've now had 3 deaths avoided thanks to stabilization and due to the perk that allows me to constantly use the same medkit over and over again. Could have been difficult without that. The mech goes down before it does anything. Wellesley comes around to the building to take out an enemy that was standing there. That's all good. The Joy up top takes another snipe and kills the reinforcement stun lancer before any stunning gets involved. That left 2 enemies in and around the Transformers. First a powerful enemy that gets outflanked and killed, took some damage from a grazing shot earlier I think as well. Speaking of grazing shots, we don't kill the final enemy due to grazing damage, which was really annoying. I think somebody else tipped it over the edge soon enough though. You can see the mech and the stun lancer have respawned. They're just going to be there every turn until we leave. We've got enough guys to constantly kill them though. So just 2 enemies every turn is fine, and somebody had moved up far enough for us to squad sight the thing and blow it up. So now we're allowed to leave. However, I need to take my bleeding out party members with me, so it's going to be harder than usual. We have to arrange for them to be either revived or to be carried out to the extraction zone. So we do that while everybody else just constantly shoots, and we avoid taking any attacks from the constant reinforcements. That's all good. Once we're ready to go, we get this warning saying we're going to be leaving somebody behind. I think this might be a glitch because you can also see it says recover soldiers -9. I think because that number's not 0, it's giving me a warning that I'm leaving people behind. I am actually leaving behind the bodies of the killed. It might be possible to recover them to get their equipment. I tried that in the past and found that it didn't work, but maybe it would have worked on this mission. Well, I didn't try it in the end. We just left, and we come away with 3 dead, 3 nearly dead but not quite, and 2 more other wounds. So that went relatively badly, especially because it's a mission that doesn't really do anything. You just have to do that to continue the game, so it doesn't feel that important. No progress is made, although in the meta sense, you have to do that mission at least 1 time, I think, during the campaign, just to show it off. So that's progress of a sort. To make some more plot progress, I need to do this psionic gate research, but I can't afford to do it. I don't have enough Illyrium crystals because I spent them all making gear. So I'm going to be doing a couple of the generic missions in Western Europe in the hopes of finding some more supplies or some more intel as well. Here's a supply convoy mission we're setting up for just that purpose, and we can also, every time we go into a new month, hit the black market and buy some stuff up. Unfortunately, you can't actually buy that much off of the black market. Maybe enough resources to make 2 armor sets or 3 or 4 weapons, something like that. We just need loads more, and because we're spending them on research as well at the moment, that means we need even more. Like right here, we can get the plasma rifle if I can get enough crystals together, the end game generic weapon. That would be extremely useful for us to get. Although, as mentioned earlier, we don't necessarily need it with double damage. The lower tier weapons will be as good as the plasma rifle usually is. Anyway, here's a generic mission in Western Europe. I think we're rescuing somebody. And here's the ambush. We annoyingly don't get the kill with our first shot, but some Overwatch finishes the job there. This is one of these missions where the low number of enemies and the fact there are loads of roofs to just camp on should make things easy, because we're going to have accuracy bonuses all the time. It even becomes worth just shooting at enemies in cover because you're more likely to kill them than they are to kill you. Although we do get XCOM'd, I tried to move up and cause this massive pod to spawn. One of their sectoid commanders rose 3 zombies up, but then with a psi move to finish off the commander, we kill those zombies at the same time before they take their first turn. How very neat. We go on to kill the Archon. All it did with its turn was shoot at us and miss, so none of its things where it like shoots its wings up into the sky and everything blows up. Something like that it can do, I seem to remember. Now moving on to that supply raid mission I set up earlier. We start things off with a nice ambushing shot against a purifier that damages the rest of this pod, and now we have a bunch of overwatches set up. I think I might even have had one kill zone set up on this area as well, although it didn't really come into use. So we kill most of the squad, and the 2 survivors can just be hunted down and killed afterwards. We did have some poor luck a bit later. When I had an enemy soldier in this building under suppression and covered by an overwatch, the overwatch triggers as he moves, but only does grazing damage. The suppression, well, it doesn't trigger for whatever reason, so that's inconvenient. And then he easily outflanks and shoots Caesar here. Luckily, Caesar gets grazed himself and was wearing endgame armor, so nothing big, just a small wound will come off that, and the rest of the mission broadly goes fine. We secure some resources, and that means we now have enough crystals to do the plasma rifle research after I finished my engineering research I'm doing right now. And doing that happened to give me the plasma rifle inspired thing. This just happens randomly, I think. Sometimes a research will go faster, and it was just in time for me to actually do it. That seems to have gone well. So we might get some endgame weapons after all, although the resources to actually build them might still be difficult to come by. Here's an annoying sort of mission where we have to defend a supply convoy. Annoying because it's not really progressing anything, you just sort of have to do it, but not necessarily. Well, I ended up doing it. It's one of the relatively easy missions where you just sit there on Overwatch with a rebel squad to help you and just see how many kills you can get and then take your first turn to kill the rest. Although this time, it did go a bit worse than previous versions of this mission, just because we missed Overwatches and the points where the enemy dropped in weren't quite as point-blank range-ish. Then again, this is the sort of mission where normally you'd have to face a Chosen, and because we've already killed them all, we're going to benefit from them not being here so we can just focus down the enemies. We kill all but one of that first pod. Here comes the second pod with these annoying deployment animations which really don't need to be here in a mission like this especially. I feel like those little animations should only play if you're breaking concealment or something like that. Seems to be a hangover from XCOM 1 that doesn't really make sense here. Well, we go on to kill those enemies even though our Overwatch sucked, just because, as mentioned, you get your first turn before they get theirs, so broadly things are fine. One thing I was trying to do in this mission is make sure that killing blows were landed by people who aren't already max rank. At this stage, at least half of our squad is already max rank. We have tons of max rank people in XCOM overall, so I'm trying to make sure we land the experience points on other characters to get the most out of this otherwise not particularly useful mission. Here we are a bit later with yet another wave. I think there were 4 waves that came in. Usually there are 3. Maybe because the Chosen isn't here, it gives you another wave. Well, we ended up fighting loads of enemies, including one pod that wasn't on the road. It was out of our line of sight. So we actually didn't ambush this pod at all. They just deployed in the fog of war and then we had to fight them normally. Fortunately, we have all of our backup guys, our sacrificable rebels, who are really useful, if not for killing enemies, but for just walking around to outflank the enemies, because it forces them to move and be worried about where you are, and ultimately they get outflanked by somebody else because we're just all over the map. And that was enough to sort everything out, not only without taking any damage across 40 enemies killed, but I think without taking any enemy attacks either. They only moved in the few turns that they managed to get off. So that was perfect. In my quest for resources, we can now utilize our repeatable researches that turn your inventory into currency. Like this right here, we can turn Elerium cores into Elerium crystals. This is very fast and we can just keep doing it over and over again to rapidly gain a whole bunch of these Elerium crystals, which will allow us to make a whole bunch of equipment. And you can do that with corpses to get alloys as well, although we don't have that many corpses actually to do it with. Before any more of that though, let's do the mission we set up ages ago. It's the Advent Forge mission. Basically a copy-paste of the Black Site mission from earlier. We just go into a building and steal a thing. We start the battle off with this really good ambush. I used that upgrade of the trench gun ability to shoot one round at a bunch of enemies at the same time, thus killing loads. We then had Overwatch to try and finish the job. We were a bit unlucky, we didn't get the finish on this other Muton. So he's now going to sit in the corner and be annoying during his turn basically. And we also happen to aggro a bunch of snakes and a turret over here on the right. Well, that turret we can see actually isn't aggro. There's another turret that was on the roof that was. So we shot that turret, and we shot one of the snakes as well. Now this guy who didn't die is going to be annoying. He's going to throw a grenade forwards towards 2 of our guys back here.
It's a plasma grenade, but it also happens to start fires, so on top of doing some damage, both of those characters ended up being on fire during their turn, which severely limits their actions. And it means I'm going to have to effectively waste a med kit to put them out, because I don't think there's another way to do it in this mod. So that just means we can't revive someone later, essentially. It's a bit more risky to go on. Not much else we can do though. The snakes achieved nothing in their turn, which is great. Now we're in position to start shooting into this room, and we finish them off easily enough. Then we move on up through this building, and I get a relatively unfortunate pod discovery, where we triggered these guys towards the end of our turn, so we can't really react to them. But we do have guys on Overwatch, not in ideal positions, but it's enough to kill the Muton Centurion, probably the strongest of the enemies. That's handy. We had to just tolerate whatever the sectoids would do, and as it happened, they didn't really do anything. They popped Overwatches and did some attempted mind controls that failed. Then we can charge up and start doing the damage. One is taken out by that flank. Had to kill another turret on the roof using a banish, because our Reaper actually doesn't have very good damage, has to shoot multiple times to kill a standard enemy at this point. Our sniper kills one of the other sectoids. There was a drone downstairs in this room where the other sectoid was hiding. It ultimately tried to run for it, breaks a suppression but cannot break the Overwatch and gets taken down. So we clear up this general area just fine. Then another pod appears. While I was moving towards these bridges, somebody came across the bridges, including an Andromedon. We've got the whole squad on Overwatch. This is a no time limit mission, so I'm doing this the really slow way, just moving a few tiles up and overwatching constantly, hoping we don't trigger a pod late in our turn and hoping they walk into us like they're doing here. And it's working out. We get the Overwatch. We don't kill the Andromedon, but we do kill that sectoid thanks to a Sentinel perk allowing me to shoot twice. And then the enemy just sat there. We're going to get an extra turn to blast at them, and in particular, we've got our Reaper and Sniper on the roof looking down on the situation. I popped a serial on the Reaper because I could guarantee a kill on the mech, so now the Reaper can attack 2 more times this turn thanks to her Light It Up perk as well. I did some grazing damage to the sectoid, but I also used double tap so I can fire again with the Sniper. I decided to fire at the Andromedon instead and leave the sectoid alive, because I knew the Reaper would be able to fire at the sectoid now, and because it's weak, we're almost certainly going to get a kill, and indeed we do. And because I popped serial, now I can still shoot more times this turn. I fire at the Andromedon. That technically is another kill, even though it's still kind of alive, it counts as a kill for serial purposes. So I can then keep shooting at the Andromedon, doing some more damage. We don't kill it in the end, but somebody else does. Essentially, those 2 guys on the roof did most of the work in that fight, and everybody else just watched. I've got Off-ED here, still in concealment. So that means we can spy on the next enemy pod and make sure we don't get too close to it so we can force them to walk into our Overwatch. I was considering firing a rocket at them, as you can see, but I ended up not doing that and instead just sitting still, hoping they would discover me, which they did, and now the fight will come towards us where everybody's in Overwatch. It's a difficult spot for us to advance with these 2 narrow bridges with limited heavy cover, and I've already spotted there's another pod right behind this one, so we can't walk forwards in this situation. We want the enemy to keep walking towards us. We get a couple of kills with the Overwatch, but it's the next turn's sniping that really does the business. Now they're in range of the snipers again. We just blast away, killing multiple things. We had lots of cases here where we weren't guaranteed to be getting these hits. We're just straight up lucky shooting the enemy in cover. Very useful. Vamp here is going to get the finish. After a 60-something% chance, we get a 50-something% chance, and both of them we got to finish off that enemy, albeit with grazing damage. So that's all good. The enemy didn't do much in their turn. In the next turn I sniped again to kill a drone, and basically that pod was down. But as mentioned, there is another pod standing there. It still hasn't aggroed though. We can only see it because Off-ED is slightly ahead of the rest of our squad. This is absolutely ideal micro exploits, I guess. You're sort of supposed to be able to do this. It just feels like an exploit. So we get the first shot on them, killing a mech. They deploy and we kill another. I take one of them out of the fight using a psychic ability so it can't fire at us. And as for the rest of them, it was just a shield bearer and an engineer. The shield bearer did some shielding, the engineer tried to shoot I think and missed, and then we get into the meat of things, running up for this double attack thanks to the hit and run perk there. Its high health stopped us from killing it. A snipe comes in to almost kill the shield bearer, somebody else finishes it off, and then our Templar runs in for the stylish kill on the guy who was nearly dead anyway thanks to the Templar magic. We are absolutely annihilating the enemy in this mission. They are barely getting the chance to act against us. A couple more enemies showed up from around the corner of the building, one of them dying instantly since we were once again sneaking around on Overwatch. We didn't get the best luck shooting at these guys. I had a few misses and a few shots that didn't do enough damage to kill. There's an example of me trying to finish off a sectoid with a grenade, but we get the low RNG and do not get the kill. I ended up partially resolving the situation by breaking concealment with Offie because we're towards the end of the mission. Having somebody in concealment is less and less useful, so that's all fine. Another sword attack the same turn takes out another sectoid, and things ended up alright. We go inside the building we're attacking. There was a muton in there who dies quite fast. There was also a sectopod at the back. But again, because we're shuffling forwards on Overwatch, we take a ton of Overwatch shots at it as it deploys and it's just running at us. And we get half of its health taken off before it can stop moving. Then we get a whole turn to fire at it, so obviously that's enough to finish it off. This time, keeping our distance to avoid the explosion afterwards. And now we go in to capture the thing. This place is the factory where Advent is making their soldiers, but they've also made this guy. I think this is supposed to be a clone of you as the invisible player character, because they were trying to capture you because they needed your body for science or something. You just have to get the thing out. It took 4 minutes to walk back to the start and there were no fights, so that was annoying. We actually dropped the thing as we were leaving and then somebody went back to pick it up, I guess, and we escaped with the thing. Now we have to research the thing to continue, but I don't quite have enough intel to do it, so we'll have to do something else in the meantime. We've got a boring mission that came up next, just a supply raid mission to get some more bits and bobs for our upcoming upgrades. We did though have this dangerous moment. We got outflanked and shot at, a critical hit onto Vincent. Luckily he has good armor and tons of health, so it's not too bad. The rest of the mission broadly goes okay. We get relatively good luck when it comes to getting XCOM'd or not getting XCOM'd, because with stuff like this move to outflank this enemy, that could well have triggered another squad of enemies to attack us. Luckily, it didn't and we grabbed the kill, and we content ourselves to take most of the boxes on the map. I didn't get them all this time. Here was a nice moment where I tried to use this saturation fire to kill 2 Lost, and it turned out there was a 3rd Lost that I couldn't see somewhere back there, so we actually killed 3, an extra bonus, 50% extra kills. Lovely stuff. So yes, we get most of the boxes. Here's the final engagement where once again it's Otto von Bismarck doing the business, using the hit and run perk to fire twice because we fired at somebody who was outflanked, and getting 2 kills, finishing off the mission. We still had to go around and get the boxes before we left. But we did that and got some stuff. It also passed into the next month so I could go shopping once again and get some more stuff. We've actually got quite a lot of the alloy and Illyrium currencies right now. We are ready to gear up. And during the next boring mission setup, I started that gearing up process, buying a bunch of these plasma rifles. Need to save cash because you have to separately unlock the plasma sniper rifle and shotgun and the heavy machine gun. So we'll do all of those and then buy all of the good weapons ready for the end of the game, which should be coming up right now. There was a mission to grab some intel and stop a dark event, which we're going to go on. There was also one of these annoying Haven raid missions, but it was pretty easy. This is one where normally you'd fight the Chosen, but we don't have to. And we essentially got all of the civilians you have to rescue, or the rebels you have to rescue, close to the extraction point just before the enemy showed up. So we essentially skipped the battle by just leaving during our turn, since there was nobody on Overwatch to stop us or anything like that. We'll just leave and not have to really fight any enemies. That was fine. We then complete the research of the thing we just captured. This unlocks the Network Tower mission. This is the story version of the mission we've already done a couple of times in this campaign because it was added into the Liberation chain by the mod. So we just have to do it again, but a particularly hard version of it. Unfortunately, we don't have a base in the East Africa Theatre, and that means we're not allowed to do this mission, so now there's going to be another obstacle. It costs 160 intel to get that base. We can bring that down to 80 by spending tons of supplies and some time to make a radio tower nearby, so I'm going to do that. But we don't have much intel, so basically we need to grind tons of intel right now. Here's 34 towards that 80 we'll ultimately need with this counterinsurgency ops mission. Here is a use of the new plasma rifles. They're always going to do 20 plus damage. That should be enough to grab those coveted one-hit kills on most stuff now, so we're getting back to how it was earlier in the campaign effectively, where you can do some nice, reliable tactics. I've also upgraded the weapon on our Reaper since damage has been a problem for her. and we just progress through these sewers generally fine, absolutely annihilating everything. We also have the submachine gun version of the plasma rifle, forget what it's called, that thing that Nabuna has, and that's also very good, just a short range, high damage weapon that you can use a bit like a shotgun, which is what I'm doing there. We get some unfortunate grazing damage on our Reaper there, which caused me to have to do a more annoying turn, which ultimately could have led to this bit of damage that I got since I couldn't act as much as I wanted, onto the Reaper as well, so annoying to have the Reaper wounded. But it was only for 5 or 6 days, as I recall. So we go on to defeat the enemy. We had to hack a thing, I think, and then we got attacked on the way out, and the Joy here pulls off a nice trick shot, not even firing at the enemy, but still easily getting the kill. That's how powerful we're becoming. Immediately after that, another intel grind mission comes up. It happens to be one of the liberation missions for Western Europe. We're actually right at the end of the liberation chain, so this mission will unlock their radio tower mission, but I don't really want to do that. We get a successful ambush, annihilating a priest and a mech. Then I had a nice chance to use a rocket launcher, haven't used it in a while, but I had a situation where I could blow this wall open, revealing 2 enemies in elevation and now out of cover. We can fire at them and kill them, so that was a nice bit of tactical use of the rocket launcher. Its damage isn't really enough anymore to be useful as a weapon. I was setting up ready to bust into the final room, and they busted out this Andromedon memes right through the wall. But of course they're stumbling here into my Overwatch trap, so in many ways this was perfect. Now they're going to get shot to pieces, and then I'll get another turn to shoot at them before they do anything. So basically this is ideal, actually better than me busting into the room myself really. So we kill them all easily, blow up a thing, get some intel. I finish building the radio tower in West Africa, and then we unlock East Africa. So now we're good to go. You can see you can spend intel to get some other buffs during this mission. I don't know how important doing that is. My instinct was to not take any of them, because I remembered this isn't the final mission. The final mission is you fighting some people under the sea. But it turns out this is part of the final mission, I guess, because it warns me that if I do this mission, I won't be able to come back to the map. So we're effectively starting a final sequence if we do this. And there are some advantages to not doing it yet. We're almost at the end of the month. That means we can get some more stuff at the start of the next month and get more weapons. And I haven't even finished researching all of the final tier of weapons. So I thought, well, I'll wait around, grind some more materials and unlock more stuff so we can have the best possible squad to send in. And I mainly spent the time doing this, effectively just breaking down components in our inventories to get more resources ready to make weapons. This proved to be pretty effective because those researches are real fast. It's faster than it says they are as well. So we very quickly get tons of currency to make new equipment, and we've already got the soldiers, that's for sure. Here's our top billing in the barracks. We can easily field a massive squad of max rank people. Let's just give them max tier equipment and see how this goes. Sometime later, here we go. We've even got enough spare intel to get squad integrated comms, giving us squad sight on normal squad members. Not that useful because normal squad members don't always have the shooting range to do anything with squad sight, but there you go, maybe that's useful. It's at least useful on our Reaper, who normally doesn't get it. It's time for another rooftop assault mission then. We trigger the first pod kind of accidentally. I actually knew this place I was standing was going to trigger them. However, it didn't show up with the little yellow marker that normally appears if you're going to break concealment when you step on a point and somebody else can see where the enemy is. Well, it's complicated. I thought I wouldn't be starting a fight, but I did, so we don't get a very good start to the battle and no ambush. We do some shooting against the Archon up top, but we don't actually get the kill with Eisenhower, who took the first shot, because he's the only guy who doesn't have the endgame weapons now. We didn't quite have enough resources to give the whole squad stuff, because we do need to have another squad's worth of troops available for a mission after this one, the actual final mission. Well, some shooting from the sniper at the back kills the Archon and a snake, so that starts to clear things up. We've also got our Reaper on high ground, although the enemy's on high ground as well. Some grazing damage with the now endgame Reaper rifle manages to kill a snake. A Codex comes up for one of its annoying psionic bomb attacks. Annoying both because it causes us to not be able to shoot with a couple of party members, but it's also going to do feedback damage that won't kill the Codex, So now there's 2 codexes and one of them's over there on that roof off to the left, which will prove annoying a bit later on. We also take this unlucky shot, a massive chunk of damage in heavy cover. Well, that sucks. In comes the sectoid commander. It grabs the mind control on off-ED, which also seems to have the knock-on effect of making quiet panic, so we lose 2 characters to that move, and with a couple already out of action due to the psionic bomb, we don't have much we can do this turn. We can though shoot a rocket into that room, which starts helping us out, because it removes the wall, and then we can shoot in and kill the sectoid and the snake, and that of course gets off-ED back for this turn as well. So that turns things around a little bit. I wanted to take this second shot with the Reaper to kill the codex over there in the corner. We missed that shot, and that's going to be annoying in a second. Off-ED moves into the room. I was an absolute mad lad here, just advancing willy-nilly. Of course we're going to get XCOM'd right now. This hunter drone triggers the close quarters overwatch thing and automatically dies. Well, that's a good start. Still, now we're fighting a bunch of stuff. Although we were pretty much done fighting the previous bunch of stuff, so it's not so bad, we're just not in a good position to do this. At least off-ED still has a shot this turn, so he kills one of the snakes in there. And I take this Deadeye with our sniper from the back that kills the Archon that just aggroed. So that's more Archon annoyances avoided, no doubt. Now that codex that I keep saying is going to be annoying, finally is annoying, taking this critical outflanking shot on off-ED. I totally didn't realise that over there it could shoot into the flank of this room. In comes a Spectre. It's going to do the old ghost thing by making a ghost off-ED for us to fight. That Spectre then went back outside the room, behind itself, so it's really hard for us to kill it and defeat the ghost in that fashion. We took some psychic damage there on Solidus, which causes him to also freak out and essentially waste his turn firing at one of the Spectres. He's going to shoot again in the next turn and just miss. This sectoid commander comes in and does something. I can't tell what it did. I think it might have been trying to raise zombies, but maybe there aren't any zombies it's able to raise. For whatever reason, nothing happens, and it takes loads of instances of feedback damage, almost killing it actually. Not quite sure what the point of that was, but it seems to go well for us. Then they end their turn with a long-range miss. That's all good. Let's start shooting at them again. We kill a snake easily with our Reaper, and now finally do get that second shot on the codex over there, so the outflanking risk is removed. We shoot into the room and kill the nearer of the Spectres. That's not the one though that caused off-ED to become a ghost. That one is just behind this door that I'm trying to blow up. This time though it failed, so the Spectre is still in heavy cover. We're not going to be able to attack it right now. I take a snipe through the room and kill a guy that was hiding at the back. And then I thought I'm going to have to just kill the ghost off-ED. I don't think I've ever done this, because I didn't know that it causes the original character to come back to life and take their turn immediately. So we can actually use off-ED to right now go through that door I was trying to blow up and just shoot the Spectre. I always thought there was some reason why you had to kill the Spectre before killing the ghost they made. I think I've just always done it that way, and I guess presumed that there was some reason for that. Maybe not, seems to go fine. We also hail of bullets the snake at the back out of the action. Then, while moving up to where that snake is, we get XCOM'd again, once again with off-ED leading the charge. In comes a bunch of stuff. The closest of the stuff is this Berserker. Off-ED takes a shot and immediately kills it with the crit, having double damage. Really makes Berserkers not very powerful in this crazy submod of mine, because melee attackers tend to very rarely actually make their attacks, and being able to just easily kill them because they don't go into cover just removes them from play instantly in most cases. We can also take a Reaper shot, getting an easy kill, and outflank the closest of the snakes. We couldn't really do much more this turn because our guys are too far back. We weren't really ready for this fight. And the aliens have another cheeky outflank they can make against poor off-ED. For the second time he is shot from somewhere off to the left. He's still relatively alive because he has the cheat item I gave myself at the beginning, the stasis vest, which makes your health regen over time, so he's kind of alive. We now get a double tap with our sniper that takes out 2 of the enemies in that room. That's going to make life much easier for us. But it's another case where we can't do much more than that. We get some grazing damage on the Reaper, very annoying, and then miss the follow-up shot. We took a few more shots this turn, but they all missed, and everybody else went into Overwatch. That doesn't help though when this happens. This snake runs past 2 Overwatches. It must be immune to Overwatch. And off-ED is once again in the firing lines. He takes another outflanking shot.
And finally, he is killed. I guess it was inevitable. He got shot a lot in this campaign and spent most of it wounded, out of action. Finally, right towards the end, he gets taken down. Perhaps there's some sort of metaphor there for my own gameplay quality. Well, at least we can get revenge on the snake because it ended up in a really easy to outflank position. And we killed the last enemy with some fire. So we move on with Offie D heavy in our hearts. I was very cautious now because we're going to attack the final room. What I wanted to do is have somebody come out of the room to trigger a battle while I was sitting on the other side of the bridge in decent cover. This drone comes over and does trigger such an ambush, and it reveals to us for a second there was another pod, including a gatekeeper, right behind that drone. So now I was even more determined to just sit here and do nothing. But we're cutting to some time later, after nothing came of that. I eventually started moving into the building and didn't see any enemies until we were right next to the room we need to get to. There's an Archon and 2 mechs defending the hack thing. One mech and an Archon goes down due to some follow-up attacks, and the other mech happens to die to Overwatch as it moves into position to outflank Quiet. With that, we win, because we can just move in and hack the thing now. The pod on the roof didn't trigger, and unlike in the other control tower missions, you don't actually have to clear the map to complete the mission. So that's that. Rip to Offie D, but otherwise it went quite well despite some hairy situations. And now we've effectively done the thing. We've defeated the aliens because this tower, for whatever reason, has the ability to kill all of the alien soldiers and deactivate their robots. So we press the button. This cutscene, by the way, is unskippable, which is why I'm watching it. It's actually already played several times because this cutscene plays every time you do a Liberation Tower mission as well, just weirdly. Well, we hacked the enemy propaganda network as part of the tower thing. We post some counter-propaganda videos saying that the aliens are bad, and the people rise up in revolt, and that's sort of the reason the plot is considered to be resolved. There's a big revolution that happened somewhere, and that defeated the aliens. We still have one more mission though. Before we go in, we actually are allowed to hang out in the Avenger for a bit, and I realised we might as well take a look at who died so far. Here on our memorials list, Saladino apparently was killed by friendly fire. I don't remember how he died, must have been quite a long time ago now, but I'm pretty sure it's lying. It's almost certain that the Long War mod, or the Long War of the Chosen mod, in some way interferes with the thing that detects how you die. Especially because Scipio here, while having a normal death method, is in here twice. That's how powerful he was. They had to double kill this guy. And then we have Snake next, or one of the snakes. He also died to friendly fire, it says. So I guess some enemies are considered to not be enemies for the purposes of this, and them killing you counts as friendly fire. Big Xenonauts energy if you watched me play Xenonauts many years ago. Big friendly fire in that game. Well, rip to these people plus Cortez, Offie D, Emmerich, Fran the Spain, Franco, Boudica, Sandra Gupta, Kaz, Victiri Montgomery, Liquid Snake, Raydonovich, Ocelot, Roosevelt, Cloud Strife, Nuke Tajino, who was supposed to still be alive as previously mentioned. I thought we were going to be able to rescue him at some point, but that didn't come up. Maybe because he actually died off screen due to bleeding out while being captured. Not sure. Then there's Raiden, our skirmisher, Izumi of Brink, Pyrrhus of Epirus, and Alexandra the Great. Not that many casualties. I actually expected more than this. It's certainly more than you would usually take playing XCOM, but I sort of accounted for that in making recruits cheap and decreasing the experience caps you need to level up. I also have something like 10 spare squad members bought through the black market. So we have like 40 guys still alive. We're nowhere near what I was worried would happen, which was that we'd get whittled down and not have very much left right at the end. Actually, we have something like 30 max rank people on the Avenger right now. So we can easily throw out an amazing squad. We don't quite have a full complement of max rank equipment, but it's still pretty good. This brings us to the final base assault. We need to attack the aliens' secret undersea base to defeat their leadership. And to help us out, we have the commander's avatar. We've sort of reverse engineered their avatar project where they were creating super soldiers for their leaders to inhabit, and now our leader is inhabiting one of these guys. And by moving forwards, not even that far, we immediately get ourselves in trouble as 2 large pods trigger, packed with some endgame powerful enemies. That's what we like to see. We had a great opportunity to use Null Lance, this ability that shoots in a 1 tile wide cone. We actually got 3 kills because the enemy happened to be standing sort of in a single file line back there. But we won't focus on how good that is or how this part of the mission went overall, because things just got worse and worse, really. My second move triggered another pod of enemies. There were 3 pods right at the deployment zone, so we have to waste a move just getting to cover before we can do anything. A very inconvenient situation. And while it actually went okay, we end up with this situation. There's an Archon sitting next to the Avatar who did a bit of damage, and it turns out that this Archon has a close quarters perk that allows it to instantly shoot if I try to shoot it. Well, we do kill the Archon, but it leaves the Avatar with very little health. This isn't necessarily a problem because we might not get hit, and the Avatar does regenerate health. However, I also wasted all of my turns trying to kill the gateway thing, the gatekeeper, and it blows up and kills the Avatar. So that's a mission failed, quite possibly the stupidest available way for me to fail the mission. Well, there we go, the world is doomed. We're only a little bit doomed anyway, we did save the world kind of already. So that's why we're now back at the start of this mission once again. This time I thought, well, I'll stay near the back of the deployment zone to fight as few enemies as possible. This didn't go very well because my very first attack kills an enemy that in some way alerts the other pod in the corner there, and we end up facing 2 of the 3 pods that are close to us. A bit better, I guess. Unfortunately, I take a shot here and don't quite get the kill on this Archon, so somebody else will have to waste their turn doing it. Broadly speaking, I didn't get many shots off this time around, so our initial engagement wasn't that good. There was a good shot there. We pulled off a street sweeper and got several hits that did massive damage for some reason. That's going to make things a bit better, and we finish off that Andromedon with another shot. We also have a perfect opportunity to use this plasma grenade shot at the ground for trick shot purposes to take off loads of enemy armor. There was tons of armor out there. Now our next round of shooting will be more effective. I also used a mind control with the Avatar to take control of this codex, just to be annoying or to use it as a distraction / sacrifice. Now let's see what the enemy have in store for us. Firstly, we've got an Archon moving in, and this guy was really annoying because we had tons of Overwatch ready for when stuff charged in, but it's all going to miss this guy. We take 5 Overwatches, I think, and they all miss. One of them was due to lightning reflexes. The rest will be just pure bad RNG. But there's the good RNG. He also misses his attack against our Templar. That's something. We now take a psionic bomb into the middle of our squad. This breaks the mind control connection and causes the codex I did have mind controlled to die. That's a shame. Now here comes a legendary move from the Gatekeeper. It comes up, takes 1 damage, goes into its weaker open state, but then it turns around and uses Gateway on its own side, killing a codex, breaking 2 suppressions and doing tons of damage to units. I have no idea what that move is supposed to do. Well, they just made things way easier for us, so congrats to the codex. This is more like it. Is this the game just secretly being nice to me because it sensed I had just failed the mission? I don't know. We take some grazing damage. Here comes another Archon rushing in for some annoyances. This is the first time it's finally going to get its blazing pinions move off. This is the move I remembered being annoyed by in the past. It's essentially area denial in that it shoots stuff up into the sky and next turn it comes down and explodes, so you have to avoid the area it's falling in. However, it's mostly falling in a psionic bomb area, which I have to evacuate anyway, so those 2 things kind of overlapped and wasted each other's potential there. Not too bad. I then took a snipe to try and kill the Archon who remains up in the sky after using that move. Unfortunately, the damage wasn't there to get a kill. We did most of it. I was on double tap, so I could shoot again. I decided to shoot the other Archon with my other shots just to make sure that was out of the way. Then I spotted a nice move to make with Timur here, and totally forgot about the close combat specialist perk on the Archon. Even though it's up there, kind of hard to see, it's almost like at the camera height. It can shoot down at anything moving around down there. Pretty inconvenient, we take tons of damage, but we do get what I wanted out of this, a shot against the snake that grabs a kill.
I can then fire at the Archon with the Avatar, and there's no close combat specialist thing there. I guess because it already triggered this turn, I can freely attack it. I followed up on the damage done by the Gatekeeper by firing a rocket into the same general area, grabbing a couple of kills and doing some more damage. I then used Deadeye on the Gatekeeper, taking off tons of its armor and most of its health. A single big damage attack is perfect because it goes back into its closed state after the attack, but now it's nearly dead. Our Templar kills the first stage of this Andromedon, now has to run away from the mech part of it, but luckily we have that momentum thing so we can just get out of the way. We shoot the Gatekeeper and blow it up with no further issues, that's what we like to see. I use a drone to shut down the mech portion of the Andromedon to avoid trouble from that guy. We take one enemy attack during their turn, it's a big one, tons of damage onto Caesar. Looked a bit like they had me outflanked, but they totally didn't, they were just lucky to get that hit. That's a shame. And now, as I move up to defeat this Centurion, we trigger another pod. We get XCOM'd basically. This was to be expected in a mission like this, and because I knew there was a pod around here somewhere from my previous life. That meant I couldn't stay where I was, had to move away to avoid being outflanked with Bootleg D there. A shot comes in to take out the shell of the Andromedon before it comes back to life. I set the Centurion on fire, doing a bunch of damage due to an upgraded flamethrower there, and then use a Null Lance to finish it off. So I got what I wanted in that regard. Tried to shoot the Archon that just spawned in or just joined the fight, and we get a nice big miss from Darius. Luckily, the second part of a double tap grazes with the Joy and just about takes out a snake over there on the right, getting bad luck with the snipers today. Here was a nice bad move. I took my Templar and decided to run through this door, again ignoring the fact that the Archon gets automatic overwatch. We actually didn't get hit, but instead I'm punished in a different way. There was an Archon that I couldn't see behind the door that I didn't open either, apparently. And it also uses the close combat thing on me to immediately quote-unquote kill the Templar, but the Templar has a perk that means they can't be killed in one hit, so it goes into the sustaining sphere thing like a priest, and we can get them back later. A snipe goes out to kill the first Archon, which I should have done before moving the Templar, luckily it didn't matter too much in this case. And then that big Archon causes issues by just absorbing all of my Overwatch again. These things probably have really good dodge stats or defense stats, the weird things that stop you being able to hit really obvious and big targets. Luckily it wastes its turn taking a shot against high cover there. This Codex is going to be more productive, popping a psionic bomb on us once again that's going to prevent some more shooting in our next turn and force some moves. It doesn't quite take enough feedback damage to kill it either, so it's now going to clone. There's another Codex off to our right to worry about, right where that snake I just killed was. Darius takes another snipe that misses. That was a Deadeye designed to kill the Great Archon. Darius is not doing well this mission, it has to be said. Big Mama comes in to shoot a Codex through another Codex, killing the one with more health with higher priority because I thought somebody else might be able to kill the weak one. While checking things out, I discover I can actually see another pod off to the right. This is quite unusual for you to be able to see a pod while you're out of concealment, but for them to not actually be in the fight. Not quite sure how it happened, but that's good to know. I used a rapid fire to shoot twice at the Great Archon. We only hit the second time, the less likely of the times to hit. That nearly kills it, but not quite, unfortunately. I did this dodgy plasma grenade where I'm just about clipping the Codex that's sitting next to Eva, just so we get that extra kill. I then used a snipe to finish off the Archon. Tifa's doing very well this mission. The Reaper finally does something, killing the Codex that cloned earlier. And now with Bootleg D, I move up to kill this Codex with an outflanking shot. Unfortunately, we miss, which leaves me outflanked by them, which was annoying. I tried to rescue the situation with our Templar, who is now back to life with 1 health. We can do a rend on that enemy, or can we? For some reason, the Templar kind of glitched out and wasn't able to move. I can select potential moves and potential attacks that cause me to move, but the button to confirm them and to make it happen wasn't appearing. I ended up saving the game and reloading, and then it seemed to work fine, so I guess I wasn't supposed to be immobilized after my sustaining sphere thing. So we move up and make the attack. Unfortunately, we get grazing damage, so we do not kill the Codex, leaving Bootleg D outflanked for this turn. So it's time to get shot, basically. The good news is that these Codexes are technically an earlier game enemy, so they don't have the more advanced weapons. They don't do much range damage, is the long and short of it. So while Bootleg D gets shot twice, she doesn't die, And she drew aggro away from the Templar, who could easily have been outflanked there and would have died. So in some ways that actually worked out okay. We then use a Vault, which kills one of the codexes. It also doesn't end your turn, that magic attack, so I could also melee attack the other one and we do get the kill, resolving the situation and, for a little bit, allowing us to be out of combat. And I say a little bit because we aggroed that pod we can see on the right this turn with another move where I thought it was going to tell me if moving to a spot would aggro them like it does for some other spots, as we saw earlier actually. Well, this time it doesn't, so we trigger this pod late into our turn. Not very good, although we do have tons of Overwatch set up already. So we actually get a bunch of shots off and kill the biggest of the mechs, which then falls through the ground by the looks of things, drawing yet more fire. Not quite sure what's going on, but we lost a whole ton of Overwatch and we did something good. Now just a couple more mechs to bring down. Caesar kills one of them. Immediately, I take a pistol shot with Tifa at long range that kills one of the drones. Then it's their turn. They do a bit of guaranteed damage there with their mech longbow. Luckily the damage isn't that much. We have so much health at this point due to having endgame armor that it doesn't matter when we get hit by these rocket attacks very much. And after some Overwatch killed that mech archer, as we saw, it left only the mech longbow alive. This is a good chance to try and use this thing, the Master Enemy ability. This is the upgraded version of Haywire Protocol that you get through a perk, and we do get it. This just means we have it hacked, but for the entire mission there's no countdown to when it goes back onto the enemy side. We have an extra troop to use, and one that's very sacrificable, and indeed has that little guaranteed damage attack with area of effect, which might come in handy. I move on up into the purplish room, and this time we get a good aggro where the enemy aggro onto us during our Overwatch phase. However, because they have 3 Archons here, all the Overwatch shots we get off miss or don't do anything due to bad luck or lightning reflexes. So we move right on to our regular turn. I use double tap on both of my snipers, or 2 of my snipers I should say, to kill 2 of the Archons, and then use Banish on the Reaper to kill the other one. So with that, the main threats are out of the way. That's what I really wanted to achieve. But we've got more shooting to do. We can easily outflank a Sectoid and grab a kill right here. For the other one, I was going for this through the wall kill with the Templar, but because of grazing damage, we do not get it. I was able to carry though using a flamethrower attack, another through the wall move, and this flamethrower attack actually also hits the general at the back and sets him on fire. That means during its turn it just doesn't really do anything, and we move up and easily kill it during our next turn. So this situation ended up being real easy. We absolutely annihilated this encounter. I finished it with a Void Conduit on the general. That will eventually kill him, and it absorbs his damaged HP onto the Templar, so we actually get a little bit of healing for doing that as well. The next encounter isn't so good. I accidentally discover this pod over here on the left, actually 2 pods at the same time. We just can't see the other one. The camera is trying to tell us that something's going on over there. Mainly it's the robots on the left to worry about. I'd already mostly deployed this turn, so we get some Overwatch right away, giving us some damage, but our guys aren't really facing the right direction. You can see 2 health bars approaching us in the fog of war. Feels like they should be too far away to be aggroed right now. Well, they are anyway. I used my mech to do some guaranteed damage into a group of enemy mechs there, and shred their armor, which is very useful. Then I used the Avatar's Dimensional Rift ability. It's just a big area of effect attack similar to the thing the Gatekeeper can do, but it also explodes next turn like a psionic bomb. So if these mechs stand there, they'll take some more damage from that. A double tap combined with the Deadeye allowed me to kill one of the sector pods in there before it takes its first turn, very good, which also did some more damage to 2 regular mechs, and we can follow up on that with this serial. The 2 mechs are obviously going to be killed in 1 hit now, so the Reaper can do that for free thanks to the serial. Although because the Reaper has Light 'em Up, you can take 2 shots normally. Using serial cancels the Light 'em Up's perk effect. So in this case I can take 3 shots instead of the 4 you might think this would allow me to do because I got 2 extra shots from the serial, if that makes any sense. Well, we kill 2 enemies and damage another. We've done pretty good damage to this enemy pod with only a few of our party members. Now though, it's the enemy's time to act. First the sector pod stands up and immediately just kills John Wick, so not much we can do about that. It then moves through the wall and comes to stand next to Bootleg D, taking some more damage on the way.
It uses its lightning feet thing to damage Bootleg D. It seems after the death of Offie D, the replacement Bootleg D is now taking all the damage for us. Well, somewhat useful. Luckily, despite being hit tons of times, she is still somehow alive. Which can't be said of John Wick, who was actually bleeding out earlier, but now he's fully dead after that rocket attack finishes him off. It also took some armor off and did damage to our captured mech, which is then also finished off by one of the enemy mechs. That's not so bad though, better for the enemies shooting to be against the other mechs than against our party members. And 2 more mechs come in from the fog of war and just do some suppression. The dimensional rift explodes and does do some extra damage to that super heavy mech, that's good stuff. We now need to take out the sector pod in the room with us. We do this in the worst way possible, where it explodes and damages Bootleg D, because again I wasn't paying attention the second time that's happened in this mission, although not the same incarnation of this mission. Luckily the damage on that sector pod explosion is really tiny, so Bootleg D is still alive after the 4th attack taken, with double damage. That's really unlikely, most people die in 1 to 2 hits, well Bootleg D is a survivor. We get a great null lance that hits 3 mechs in a row, and then we just finish off the remaining mechs. All of a sudden things are absolutely fine and we're out of combat again. We then move on to the final encounter, which we won't look at too much because it's essentially fine, just a couple of enemies now, much easier than the encounters we faced earlier. We effectively killed that sector pod by mind controlling it. We'll see in a second why that's effectively killing it. We shoot down and kill some mechs and start damaging a gatekeeper. There was another sectoid hanging around there somewhere. The gatekeeper did this really weak melee attack that was absolutely ideal. It does have that much more powerful area of effect guaranteed damage move, but it just straight up didn't do it. It certainly could have killed a couple of our weaker party members if it did, but it didn't, so that's just good luck. We deadeye it in the next turn and almost kill it. That sectoid I mentioned dies. The other sectoid, the mind control one, just kind of dies off screen. I think that's because it's not considered an enemy while it's mind controlled. So now we've killed everything else, that's all quote unquote enemies dead, and it transports us to the final boss. And like all of the bosses, with double damage, it's going to be easier than it normally is, because it's essentially a DPS race. It's just seeing can you kill 3 avatars before you get overwhelmed by constantly respawning enemy reinforcements. And the answer to that question is going to be yes, because it's way easier for us to do that particular challenge. Plus, avatars are actually the easiest boss to fight in my opinion, because they teleport when you hit them. And as you can see, they teleport towards you, so they end up kind of behind us, easy to outflank, and we absolutely annihilate this one in the face. That's 1 avatar down. Then we get attacked by various things, but it seems that in this final encounter, it's actually early game enemies that attack you, or at least at the beginning of the encounter that's what comes out. So we're fighting like codexes and regular unupgraded vipers. It's generally pretty easy, so we can just skip over that. After a while, another avatar comes in. In this case, it sat in a group with a couple of other units. I fired a grenade, not really to do damage, just to make it teleport somewhere else so it's easier to hit. And indeed that is what happens. I pulled a serial on the Reaper to kill most of the regular enemies actually, and then get another final shot at the end towards the Avatar, who was technically in cover, but the Reaper doesn't really mind too much about that. That's another load of damage. It then teleports to be, again, right next to us, so we're basically fine to run up and shoot it in the face, again with Bootleg D. That's the second Avatar, easily killed, not even letting them get their turn. Another Avatar shows up. Eventually, we did some damage to it. There's a null lance against it, some Avatar on Avatar action. A nice teleport that brings it into range of this codex that I mind controlled. So finally a chance to actually use a mind controlled troop. We're going to move right up to point blank range and do some damage. But as mentioned earlier, codexes are an early game enemy, so their weapon isn't very powerful even when the damage is doubled. Therefore, we still can't kill the Avatar. Would have been nice to kill it with one of the alien's own units. It escapes, just barely alive, and teleports to somewhere where it's already outflanked by Darius up here, so we can just kill it once I work that out. Another thing to mention, by the way, is that in this final boss, your armor items kind of regenerate when you teleport in here. That's why everybody has that yellow health bar above themselves. All of their lost armor is back, so that's another reason why this final part was relatively easy, although I don't think we took any damage in these fights. So we kill that final Avatar, and the Avatars had the alien ghosts that control the aliens in them. So this sort of kills them, but then there's also this scene at the end where our Avatar does this magic anime battle with them.
and kills them some more. They do mention though that some other thing that they were at war with is going to come for us if we take them down. Well, fine. Looks like they're setting themselves up for a sequel, but aside from that, the world is now saved and the aliens are done with. Although I think in the official canon the aliens don't leave Earth, because there's another game where the aliens have allied with the humans to fight crime or something. I've actually got it, it's called like Chimera Squad. Might play that one day. So yeah, some ominous stuff about something bad possibly happening, but broadly speaking that was fine. And now we look at the stats. I'm guessing these stats are going to be misleading, because it's comparing my performance to what I presume is the base XCOM War of the Chosen performance. So we've done more missions than you usually do. We've lost way more troops than you'd be expected to. It says we've lost nearly 60. Really doesn't feel like that considering we did look at our casualties earlier. I feel like it's more like 20, maybe 30, I forget. Well, I don't know, maybe it's considering everybody to have died twice or something, that's a possibility. Looks like we had slightly above average shooting luck, so that's something, and we completed the missions faster than normal, which is what I expected with my faster than usual mod setup. I guess it worked a bit. Looks like most people do kill all 3 Chosens like we did, and they do it roughly at the same time as we did. Our faction heroes didn't perform very well, no idea what the ability points thing is talking about, the other things don't really matter. We had nearly 100 total troops used in battles, as opposed to the 40 on average. Doesn't feel like that many, but still quite a lot. That will go some way to explaining why we have so many promotions, also because promotions were easier in my submod. And we've got loads of colonels, it says. I don't think we have 40 colonels, because we barely have that many troops overall, as far as I remember. Maybe we have 30? Not quite sure. Who even knows? Looks like we did really well, so clearly the game was too easy in the end. We had tons of scientists, not quite enough engineers, and looks like we were slow on the tech tree, but that might be something to do with the long war mod, which makes the tech tree a bit slower than usual, so maybe that wasn't such a poor performance. And then there's some numbers that I'm guessing are glitched here if the world is getting negative stats. Must be the long war mod's interpretation of these stats messing with what they normally are. I can't even remember what the base game's actually like at this stage. I don't even know what features were part of the mod. It's been too long. It was indeed a very long war. I've got 160 hours in the game, it says, and I think it was at least 100 before I started playing this campaign, because I have played XCOM at least like 3 times before. So maybe it took 50 to 60 hours, pretty long, and it's supposed to take longer than that. I can't imagine actually playing the game with half damage if all of the rounds of shooting had another round of shooting stacked on top of them. This would have taken a while, and I had all of my troops with extra mobility to make the walking across the map sections of the levels faster, and sometimes that's a big deal. We had cases in this campaign where there were 20-minute segments of just moving across the map, not encountering any enemies, trying to move in the Overwatch careful style that XCOM 1 encouraged. Well, that's finally the end of that. I think my mod could have been a bit more harsh on me, but then again it's also less fun if you have less control. I think it was a really good idea to increase the party size. We always had about 2 more party members than you were supposed to, at least in most missions. And the increased mobility and increased importance of cover means it's more about moving and shooting rather than trying to chip away at enemies in cover. And I just think that's a bit better, and the double damage mod just skips things along and increases the tension as well. It's more important when you get a hit, and it's more decisive when you get hit. It's certainly more fun, I think, than I had at the beginning of this campaign, playing without those changes, and the other time I tried to play the Long War mod. Overall, the game is still sort of marred by the fact that this game is effectively a remake of XCOM 1, which is a remake of some games from the 90s, and the clunkiness, the time wasting, the old-fashioned game design from those times has leaked all the way through to here. So it's strange, XCOM 2 is like a really cheaply made game, especially when you go and mod it yourself. You sort of see how basic it is behind the scenes, and how it's really just loads of hacks on top of a really old game engine, just somehow making it work. And it's surprising to me that this game was really successful. They must have made tons of money because it was quite cheaply developed. and they haven't made another one. I'm not quite sure why that is. Maybe they decided to start from scratch and make a new system and then discovered that's very difficult. Well, who knows. You can see I'm poking around here in the other things on the main menu. I'd never seen or never investigated any of these other buttons before. Some sort of challenges going on even up to the present day, and it appears some people are cheating to get to the top of the leaderboard with their 0 seconds completion time for this challenge. Pretty good stuff. A few people near the top though have actual time, so maybe some people are doing it legitimately. I don't know. I'm not really sure what the XCOM 2 competitive scene is like, but apparently it does exist even now. I was also interested to see there are some missions you can do from the main menu that are essentially part of the main game's plot, as far as I can see, because the main game just starts in media res. There's no lore explanation for why XCOM 2 as a concept is happening, other than that they didn't want to change XCOM 1's game mechanics. They've changed the setting of the game, let's just not come up with a reason. So for some reason, a group of 6 people are trying to liberate the entire planet by just traveling around killing the odd alien. Well, there's a little bit of lore there as to how that even started happening, which could have actually been in the main game. I would have been absolutely fine with a few normal missions to start off, or a few story missions here and there with the story characters. Well, whatever. I'll game design XCOM 3 another time. I'm out of here. Next up, I'm going to be playing Total War Warhammer 3 because I just got given it for free, and, well, I guess I might as well. I don't necessarily want to play it, I'll note, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'll see you there for whatever complaints I can come up with about that.